The Six Nations tournament starts this coming Friday at the Stade de France as Wales are the visitors. And in this video, I'll be taking a look at the team that I think France will pick to take on the Welsh. Bonjour, amateurs, and welcome back to our Six Nations series. And I'll be with you throughout the championship and beyond. So hit subscribe down below to make sure you don't miss out on any future episodes. It's that exciting time of the year again, heading through horrible January, but you've got the Six Nations to look forward to, all that amazing rugby, the history, and just following those players through their domestic tournaments in Europe, and now getting onto the big stage of the Six Nations. Okay, let's get into it and what I think the French team will be to face Wales this coming Sunday. And overall, for the French, they're coming off 3 nice wins in the autumn, including an absolute epic against New Zealand. And their club sides are playing incredible, insane rugby, especially Toulouse and Bordeaux. But they got 5 home ties in the last 16 of the Champions Cup. And they're just looking incredibly strong at the moment. So many players, so much depth. And that is really important because the list of injuries that they are suffering at the moment is quite wild. We're looking at Charles Ollivon, Anthony Delonche, Dante, Fiku, both centres that have dominated their team for years now. Thibaut Flamont in the second row, along with Roman Fofana, I think that's how you say it. Tatafu, the tight head, and Wardy, another prop as well. So many players out. But there is still incredible strength in this French squad. A squad of 42 players, by the way. They take a lot of players into camp, but then cut it down to 28 on the Wednesday of the game, and those other 14 players go back and play for their clubs during that weekend, and then come back the following weekend, and then obviously down to a 23 for match day. So there are some players in this team that I think are just bang on absolute starters. And there's some that was, quite a little bit of thought went into who's going to get picked and why. Okay, so let's start with the forwards. And this is what I've gone with. I think the ones that are absolutely nailed on, Mavaka Hooker is just an absolute worldie of a player. You've got to feel for Marchand. He's in a similar position to Kelleher behind Sheehan at Leinster, where he's number 2, but both his club and country to the same player. Tough. But, would you still rather be second fiddle at Toulouse and France? I think, probably would, rather than go and play for another club anyway. Antonio at tight head is just an absolute rock, playing pretty well again this year as well. And then all the way down to Aldrit and Cross in the back row. They've been mainstays for a long time, and I think they'll continue to do that. And also Miafu in the second row is just so important in terms of his carry and offload game. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. He just makes so many dents in teams, but with the football ability to go with it as well, he's incredibly important for France and Toulouse. Okay, the ones where there's a little bit of thought needed. Cyril Bay is obviously an incredible tight head, but he hasn't, loose head, but he hasn't played a lot this season. I think he's been injured, but he's been back recently, a few games off the bench. And the same goes for Jean-Baptiste Gros as well, who played in the Autumn Nations. But again, he has not played a lot of rugby. And the third one that's really challenging was Danny Priso, who has played a lot of rugby, but I don't think he's as good as either of the two that I've just mentioned. So it's a bit of a toss-up there in terms of conditioning, whether you go for the player who's probably not quite as good, but has played a lot of rugby, or whether you go for the guys you think are better, but haven't played a lot. I think Cyril Bay is an outstanding athlete, and I think he'll get back and be fit and start in this French team. Second row position there, I've gone for Halagahu, and it's a difficult one here. They're missing Thibaut Flamont, injured very recently. They're also missing Roman Tafanua, who is another massive second row, probably more in the Miafu mold, to be fair. I don't know too much about these other second rows, truth be told. So I've gone with him, and we'll see what happens. Also in the back row, Paul Beaudenant, who's been playing very well and has also been in and around this French squad for quite some time. Okay, on to the backs. And obviously, nailed on starters, Dupont and Untermack, no question whatsoever. And just remember, they were both missing for the Six Nations last year. You know, France had some troubles, and it's hard not to think that if those two players have been playing, things might have been very different. You never know. You can't tell for sure, but they are so important for France. Another injury that France have suffered, Louis Bilberry, who has been absolutely wildly good for Bordeaux this year so far, is injured. It's unsure exactly how long he's going to be, but it looks like he's certain to miss the French game. So I've gone for Gabin Villiers here, who was the starter for a long time for France. And he just plays with such competitiveness, such vigor, so tough at the breakdown, along with being rapid and a great finisher and all these things. So, you know, France are in a great nick there. Whichever left wing they choose, they've got very good players. Now, with the injuries in the centres, chances for people. Mo Farah has been in and around the squad for a long time. He's played a lot of games for France and has always done well, but he's been behind Dante. He's been behind Fickou. Now is his chance to really make that 12th shirt his own. And again, he's been playing well. So look for a big tournament for him. At 13, France have absolutely got so many options here as well. It's ridiculous. They got Galthie, they got Barassi at Toulouse, who has been playing really well. Deporter at Bordeaux. Galthie and Deporter are the younger ones. Barassi has been around for a good few years now, but it seems like Galthie was there in the autumn, and I'm going to predict that he'll keep his spot in this opening fixture. On the right wing, Damien Penaud, fresh from scoring 6 tries in the Champions Cup last week, and Thomas Ramos, who I think his game's gone to another level. You know, his goal kicking is metronomic, but he just seems like his all-round game, his skill set, his ability to put people into space and find it himself, I think it's just gone up a few levels this year. Toulouse looks so good, and he's been a massive part of that. Okay. On to the bench. And there we go. I mentioned Marchand earlier. I think, yeah, he's just unfortunate to be behind one of the best hookers in the world, if not the best. I'm going to go with Jean-Baptiste Grotte as well. If he's coming off the bench, don't really need a full 80 minutes from him, so his lack of game time shouldn't be a problem. Oh, at tight end. We didn't mention the tight ends when we were speaking about Antonio earlier. Rabah Slimani is back in the French squad for the first time since 2019. That is a long layoff, and it was almost, I think, on the point of sort of retirement before Leinster picked him up, and he's been playing so well for Leinster, really dominating at scrum time. He's got those narrow shoulders, which makes it very difficult for loose heads, and it was part of the reason Beno Obano eventually got sent off when they played Bath recently. Also, Dorian Aldegheri, who's another great scrummaging tight head. I'm going to go with Slimani because I just like the story, and I'd love to see him get on and play in the Six Nations again. A proper gnarly tight head. Redu Abadi, who's one of my favourite names in world rugby, great name for a back rower, and Gazzotti, who's been playing a lot at number 8. With Luku, the scrum half replacement, although there's, you know, Nolan Garrick as well is absolutely wildly talented, but I'm just going to go with Luku, who's also been playing fantastically well again. So many of these French players are in really good form because their clubs are in such good form. And I'm going to go with Barassi on the bench as a slightly older head there. I feel like they probably need backup in the centres rather than they definitely don't need it at fly half because Ramos can do that. And some of the centres can easily move out to the wing. I think Mo Farah has played on the wing before, and I'm sure Galthie can do it as well. Okay, summing up. What do I expect to see from this France team on Friday night in the Stade de France? Well, I think on attack, I think it's going to be keep ball alive. They're going to try and avoid rucks as best they can. They're going to use their incredible power, get through the line, then offload and flood exactly the way that we've seen the classic French teams play. And it's just, they're so good at it at the moment. They get in behind the ball and just charge through holes. And also, when they get turnovers, they just come alive on turnovers. They really sort of move and get into space very quickly and shock teams sometimes by doing that. Where might they have some problems? I think the biggest problem they might have could be line-out time. missing their number one line-out caller. They've got some good line-out forwards there, but it's just that time in the shirt, those combinations, that might be something that might be a problem for them. All right, but that's what I think. I think they're heavy favourites to win in the opening game at the weekend. But as we all know, if you get into the French, you can sometimes get them squabbling and doing all that kind of stuff. So you never know, but I think heavy favourites. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll join you there for a friendly conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there, if you don't mind. It helps other people find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and do not forget to get out and play.